Here we are at Idlewild Park in Ligonier, Pennsylvania, just south of Pittsburgh. It's one of the oldest amusement parks in the country, created in 1878. And it's also rated the #1 kids park, and you'll see why as we go through. There are 7 loosely themed zones in the park, and we'll go through them one by one. The park has an interesting layout. It's sort of this big kidney bean shape, but it's got these other areas that are off to the side and one that's across the Loyal Hannah Creek. So let's walk over this way first. The park actually has several themed parks within the park, and this is probably the biggest and one of the most famous in the park. This is Storybook Forest, and you enter through this giant storybook, and it's a huge area. They have costumed characters who talk with the kids, all based on, famous nursery rhymes, things like that. It's a beautiful place to take little kids. They usually love it. And notice all these picnic pavilions. There are a lot of those scattered across the park as well. And we're actually starting at this particular entrance right here, but there are 3 different entrances to the park that you can use. And there are parking gates, and you actually pay for your admission at the parking gate. So once you get into the parking lot, you just walk right into the park. This is Jumpin' Jungle, which is another one of the separate little areas. And it's an interactive play area for kids. You can see the massive ball pit there. And now we're going to enter another one of the themed areas. This is Hoot and Holler, which is themed like an old western town. A lot of old log cabin style buildings. If we were to follow the paths off to the right there, that would take us to some more picnic pavilions. And that station that you see there is for the Login Toboggan, which is the park's flume ride, which wasn't open while we were there. This is another one of the entrances through the parking lot. This is the Login Toboggan entrance over here. And over here you can see some more of the picnic areas. They also have a Civil War reenactment going on. They have that quite frequently at the park. Loud cannons going off and tents pitched, people in costume. Now over here is one of the eateries at the park. This is the Mine Shaft Kitchen, and you can see they have roasted corn there and all sorts of food. Really nice landscaping in the park, lots of twisting paths all over the place. Idlewild is rated the #1 kids park mainly because pretty much the entire park is for children. There are some rides that are for tweens and for adults. Not a lot of them, and we're going to be seeing an area that's dedicated to that coming up. But most of the park is really geared for small children, and you'll see a lot of grandparents here with their kids. Off in the distance there you can see Frontier Follies in progress. It's a silly little Western-themed show for kids. There are also rides back there. One of my favorite things in the park, Confusion Hill, and that's a sort of illusion house. It's a sort of walk-through funhouse place with a guided tour of a really silly premise of a miner's shack that's been blown up by dynamite and everything's off kilter. It's a lot of fun. There's another path off to the picnic groves. And now we're crossing into another themed area. This is the old Idlewild section. And this is about as close to a standard midway as Idlewild gets. Most of these rides are for older kids or adults. Hi there. And up on the hill here on the right, you can see one of the oldest buildings in the park, one of the big pavilions, now used for picnics. So let's take a walk around the old Idlewild section. You can see an old Big Eli Ferris wheel. The day we were there, the park wasn't fully open. It was hosting an outdoor classroom for students. They had a lot of buses there. But over here is the Hillside Theater, and they had some photo ops with some of the characters, and they have little plays that go on for kids. There's another shot of the big pavilion up there. And this area over here is sort of like a town square, and it has food shops and gift shops and games. And it's got that beautiful fountain. And you can hear that familiar music, and that means that over here on the left is the park's 1931 Philadelphia Toboggan Company Carousel. It's in beautiful shape and has a working band organ. And over here on the right is Rolo Coaster, built by Philadelphia Toboggan Company in 1938. And it's one of my favorite roller coasters, actually. A wooden ride that's built into the side of a hill. It's a junior coaster, so the trains are a little tight fit, but it's a lot of fun. And over here is the entrance to another one of my favorite rides in the park, the Wild Mouse. It's the only Wild Mouse created by the company Vekoma, and it has a really wild ride. The lift hill itself is tilted, so as you go up you feel like you're going to fall out of the car. Over on the left here is the park's one big sit-down eatery, Boardwalk Pizza. And over here is the formal end of the park. This little pond is called Lake Bouquet, not because it smells like a bouquet of flowers, but it was named after a British soldier, Henry Bouquet. But this is also the home of Soak Zone, which is the park's massive water park. And as you can see, it's a busy place. They have a giant wave pool down there and all sorts of the usual water attractions. So now we're going to head back on the other side of the Midway. That area over on the right is the exit to the Wild Mouse Coaster. And over here on the left is the park's first aid station and also the formal entrance to the water park. And you can also see in the trees there on the side of the hill the track of the roller coaster. Alright, so let's continue our walk back. There's one more themed area that we're going to take a look at a little further down the Midway here. And there, hidden in the trees, you can see the structure of the Wild Mouse, which unfortunately was down the day I was there. But it's a pretty big ride. And another thing that's really neat about this ride is the wheels on the cars are set way back, so when you get to the edge of those hairpin turns, it feels like you're going to fly right off the track. And there's another nice look at the Wild Mouse. And here's the other themed section, Raccoon Lagoon. You get to it across this long bridge here. And it's basically an entire separate park just for small fry. It's got some really neat attractions in it, so let's go take a look at that. Some people who have watched my walkthrough videos have said, why don't you edit more or speed things up? And what I want to do is I really want to give people a sense of the amount of time it takes to walk through different areas of the park, so you can judge how much stamina you have to have and how much time you need. This is Loyal Hannah Creek. You can see the tracks going across there for the railroad. Like I said, because this was a special classroom day, there wasn't a lot open for the little kids in this area, but we'll take a look at this anyway. There's a stage that puts on little kiddie shows. Over here on the left are Little Rascals, which is a hand car for kids so they can pedal themselves around a little railroad track there. And you'll notice that there are all sorts of kiddie rides scattered all over the place here. Auto cars, little flat rides, mini Ferris wheels. This area alone could keep small fry occupied for a long time. Now this up here on the left is probably my favorite ride in the park. This is like a scaled up version of Little Rascals. This is a hand car for adults, which brings me back to when I was a little kid riding these at Mountain Park. You can ride by yourself, or you can actually fit your kids in there with you. Unfortunately, that wasn't open when I was there either. But that alone is reason enough for me to come back to Idlewild. And as you can see, there's plenty of shade in the park and lots of beautiful landscaping. That building you see off there is another stage. Over here on the left is a big pond, and that normally has, you'll see a big rock there. It normally has these massive fountains in the middle of it. They shoot up into the air about 30 feet. It's pretty impressive. Now over here on the right is a hedge maze. You don't really find these a lot in amusement parks anymore, but it's basically a little maze made out of hedges that kids can run through. That wasn't open when I was there. And here's one of the biggest draws of the park. This is Daniel Tiger's neighborhood. It started life as Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, and since Mr. Rogers' neighborhood really isn't on the air anymore, the park kept the ride alive by retheming it into Daniel Tiger, and it's hugely popular with little kids. And the last attraction over in this area here is the Loyal Hannah Limited, which is the park's miniature railroad. And that goes around and brings you to Hoot and Holler, back near the entrance of the park by Confusion Hill. So it's a good transportation method. You can get from the front of the park to the back of the park pretty easily.
You got a pee, dude? You sure?
And that's pretty much the extent of the park. A lot of ground to cover here, but it certainly will keep kids occupied for the entire day. And it'll certainly wear the parents out as well. So we're going to take a walk back through the area of Hoot and Holler that we didn't see because we went around to the right when we came in, so we'll be coming back on the opposite side of the midway. And over here is the park's Goofy Golf Course, which again wasn't open when we were there, but it's a fun little course. And there's the entrance to Goofy Golf. Hi, Karen. The big Elis are my favorite type of Ferris wheel. Very thrilling. And there's a scooter, which is a bumper car ride. Now, although it looks like there's another path off beyond the scooters there actually isn't. That's a dead end. But there are 3 rides down there. There's a whip and a roundup and a tilt-a-whirl. And we're back in Hoot and Holler. So if you're traveling through the western Pennsylvania area and you have small kids, this is the park to take them to. They'll have lots and lots of fun here. Plus, there are a lot of other parks in the southern Pennsylvania area as well, so you certainly could make a whole vacation out of coming to this part of the country. And that brings us back to the entrance, and that concludes our tour of beautiful Idlewild Park.